Hello, I'm Dr. Kathy Marshak, and we're coming up upon a month that's pretty important for those of us in the neurodivergent community. The topic is Celebrate Neurodiversity. It's Celebrate Neurodiversity Month coming up. And a few years ago, it was actually first established as Autism Awareness Day. Then it became a week-long celebration, and now many organizations are creating a total Celebrate Neurodiversity Month. I do think that this is a valuable thing to do, but I want to comment on the fact that we need a lot more than just a slogan. Celebrate Neurodiversity is important in that we are able to acknowledge that individuals count, that regardless of their brain organization or their disability status, they have rights. And that's all good. It's very good. But those rights don't necessarily materialize into any benefits for people on the autism spectrum, neurodiverse folks, or their families. So I'm not sure that I quite like that title. Autism awareness, I think, is a little bit better because it's focusing on let's learn about what's actually going on with neurodiverse people. But that still limits us to what do we do about that? How do we make things better? So, it's interesting that these are aspirational goals, by the way. Aspirational goals. Celebrate neurodiversity or autism awareness sounds great, but let's see how we can actually make them work. So I have a couple of examples for you about other aspirational goals, and I think you'll understand in a moment why I picked these two. The Declaration of Independence is an aspirational goal. It certainly was a political statement to the King of England, but I'll just read a little section of it so that you get a gist of what this kind of aspirational goal is about. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Now, there's more to the Declaration of Independence than this, but as you can see, this is an aspirational statement. All men, and presumably women, are not created equal. We all know that. But are they endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, such as the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Maybe. We like to think that should be true. And so when you celebrate neurodiversity, you are supporting the right of neurodiverse individuals to be just who they are. But it's not really an explanation of how to ensure those rights. That would mean, changing all of society. So this is an aspirational statement, and it represents a statement about justice. It's what is right. It's what people should do. They should believe in. This is right. It's a justice concept, which, is useful, just doesn't necessarily get us anywhere. Now I'm going to read a second aspirational statement. It's a sonnet, actually, written by Emma Lazarus, and it's short, so I'll read all of it to you. And it's another one of these aspirational statements that probably all American school children have heard. Most Americans have heard it. The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. It's also aspirational, and it represents a different concept. It represents mercy. So obviously this was the sonnet that won the contest, that was chosen to help recognize the dedication of the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor. So this aspirational statement actually represents mercy. It represents reaching out to the homeless, tempest-tossed, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Reach out. Welcome. So we have Thomas Jefferson's comments and Benjamin Franklin and a couple of others who helped him write it that represent justice. What's right, what's fair, what we're entitled to. Okay? Over here we have Emma Lazarus writing about how to be there for others. Both of these things are necessary if we're going to celebrate diversity or establish autism awareness. And in fact, it's rather interesting, isn't it, that these two individuals wrote this sonnet and these statements even though they've had a pretty compromised life. Thomas Jefferson wrote this for white men, white landowners that were in the colonies at the time, and he himself was a slave owner. So he said all men are created equal, but I'm not sure that included African American slaves. And then Emma Lazarus, interestingly, writes this incredible sonnet for the dedication of the Statue of Liberty, and she's a Jewish American. Such a Jewish American woman who is revered for this sonnet, and yet, at the time she wrote it, she couldn't vote. She was American, but she couldn't vote in 1883. So we've got all kinds of compromises like that, and I think that's what Celebrate NeuroDiversity is about too. There's compromises. So in order to celebrate, I think it's important to talk about how you make things work better for neurodiverse people. And you can't talk about how to make them work better for neurodiverse people if you don't talk about where they have problems with others. Now, I refer to those problems as a function of what's called neurodivergence. When you have a neurotypical person and a person with neurodiversity in a relationship together, such as a romance, marriage, friendship, family, work situation, congregation, church, volunteer in the community, when you've got neurotypicals and neurodiverse people together, they are likely to have a lot of communication problems that cause neurodivergence, or pulling apart, breaking apart, worlds colliding. So if we're going to celebrate neurodiversity, we got to find a way so that those subtle misunderstandings between neurotypical and neurodiverse have a way of being ironed out. Now, one of the things that I emphasize a lot in my work, in my books, in my courses, in my blogs, is that the problems in neurodivergence really have to do with social interaction, interpersonal interaction, communication between these two populations. So, there are many people that are neurodiverse and who do not have good social skills. That's the definition of autism, or one of the criterion in the definition of autism is poor social skills. But it's far greater than social skills. It's not about etiquette. It's not about learning how to put a napkin on your lap, or how to say please and thank you, or walk into a room and introduce yourself. It's not about etiquette. It's not social skills. It's really the ability to empathically connect with others, to recognize what's going on with them, to step into their reality, and invite them into yours by talking to them. I think of it as the empathy triad. I call it the empathy triad because it requires the empathy to read the context between people, among people, and the ability to talk about that context in such a way that the other person feels respected, understood, appreciated. So as you can see, if you just have rights to be a person, which of course neurodiverse people do, but you don't have the mercy of learning how to accept each other in a kind and affectionate and appreciative way, then it doesn't get any better. We still have neurodivergence. So one of the things that I offer, like I said in my courses and my blogs and my newsletters, is a concept called the 7-step interface protocol. The 7-step interface protocol is my attempt to help you bridge the gap, this huge gap in neurodivergence, where there's a neurodiverse person over here who's quite transactional, and there's a neurotypical person over here who's interactional. You got to get those two systems starting to work together better. Otherwise, neurodiversity will just keep people, in a pocket, in a closet, in a file folder somewhere. They won't have a life. That's not okay. And neurotypicals don't get to have a life either if what they have to do is just keep respecting the rights of the neurodiverse person, but nobody's noticing how they're being affected by this transactional style. So I want to throw one more thing out at you that I think is just so telling of this justice versus mercy sort of style or sort of interaction. When I talk to my neurodiverse, my autistic clients, they're always asking me, how do I get my neurotypical partner to be nice to me? That's a justice concept. They feel entitled to their rights to be treated well, and they should be. So they're asking, how do I get treated nicely? But my neurotypicals ask me, how do I get my autistic loved one to connect with me, to get me? In other words, to step into my world and know me more. That's a mercy concept. These are two different things that are important to all of us, justice and mercy. But we've got to find a way to bring them together so they work for both sides of this neurodivergent relationship. So, how do you celebrate neurodiversity? Well, I think you know by now that I would recommend that you consider neurodiverse people as part of relationships, communities, co-workers, friends, partners, children, parents, neighbors. Neurodiverse folks don't live in isolation. They interact with others. They affect others profoundly, sometimes very much in negative ways that they didn't intend. So if we're going to celebrate neurodiversity, we need a plan to help bridge that gap between that transactional justice approach of neurodiversity to the world of mercy and neurotypical interactive living. And I believe that the 7-step interface protocol is the way to get us there. And I won't go into detail about that, the 7-step protocol, because you can read about it at my website, and I hope you go there and learn more, maybe sign up for my newsletter. But this is the answer. Celebrating neurodiversity without a plan for how to make lives better doesn't seem like much of a celebration to me, does it to you? Anyway, I hope to hear from you soon. Please drop me a line, make a comment, sign up for one of my newsletters. I appreciate it.